The autonomous era has arrived. Self-driving cars and trucks are hitting the roads. So, how do you invest in autonomy? We'll ask growth investor Adam Johnson to explain. Plus, he'll walk us through 4 stocks of companies tied to self-driving that he owns. So fasten your seatbelt. This is Ticker Tape.
Well, John, everyone's been talking about the self-driving revolution.
It's one of the biggest trends in technology, Caroline, and investors are very interested.
Yeah, and to better understand that investing opportunity, we spoke with Adam Johnson, portfolio manager of the Bullseye American Ingenuity Fund.
Yeah, and we started by asking him just how big of an opportunity it is. Have a listen.
John, it's huge. I mean, I think we're ultimately talking hundreds of billions of dollars. You can look at the trucking market. That's $1 trillion market. I'm not saying every truck is going to be autonomous, but, you start running the numbers and they are huge, huge magnitudes.
Now, before we get into the 4 stocks that Adam is watching closely, we wanted to get his advice on what investors really need to think about when you're considering investing in the self-driving theme. Let's hear what Adam had to say.
Well, it's not going to happen overnight. Look, Waymo's been testing in a number of cities for years. We've been talking about this for years. And in many cases, I think a lot of cities are just not at a point. I mean, imagine yellow cabs going around New York autonomously. I don't think we're ready for that. But it is happening. I mean, it's certainly already happening in warehouses. Forklifts are autonomous. Robotic warehouses are a huge theme. One of my investment themes, actually, in the American Ingenuity Fund. So, it's out there, but these things take time.
All right. With that said, let's dive into Adam's 4 top stocks to watch in self-driving.
And before we do that, a friendly reminder, this is not financial advice.
Stock number 1. Tesla.
Yeah, it's hard to think of any company within the Magnificent Seven that has painted more of a roadmap towards autonomy than Tesla. Elon Musk driving hard down this road. Here's Adam's take on Tesla.
Well, not only have they written the book, they are writing the book as we speak. And what I think is also fascinating about Tesla's approach to autonomy is all of the AI that they have gathered from all their cars driving around that's actually, I think, ultimately going to be used to power their Optimus robot. And when you think about it, robots, a humanoid robot, like what they're ultimately going to use in their warehouses, that's just really its own kind of autonomous vehicle. So I don't want us to think about autonomy or autonomous vehicles as this narrow little band. It's actually much bigger than that, because robots, by definition, are autonomous vehicles. And that's how big this thing is, John. They're going to be robots everywhere, and they're all going to be autonomous. I think Tesla's ultimately going to make more money off their robots, the Optimus humanoid robots, than they will off electric vehicles. So I actually just recently bought Tesla for the first time. People said, do you not like EVs? No, it's not that I don't like EVs. It's just that I think there's only so much of a market for EVs. But when you start talking about autonomy, from autonomous cars to autonomous warehouse robots to humanoid robots, that who knows what they might be doing in 10 years from now. Then I think you're talking about a massive, massive market that's way bigger than EVs could ever be or have been.
Stock number 2. Alphabet.
Well, this is one of the most talked about stocks on Ticker Take, oftentimes because of its compelling valuation. Now, the stock's had a bigger run recently, in part because of a big legal win. But obviously, self-driving is just one part of the Alphabet empire. Here's Adam on Alphabet.
Yeah, Waymo is a tiny part of the Google empire, and it's going to become a big part of the Google empire. And I'll tell you why, John. I didn't even know this until I started researching autonomy myself. But there are several cities in the Southwest, probably most notably Austin and Atlanta, where Waymo is already providing a couple 100,000 rides for Uber, right? So autonomous taxis are already happening. We may not be talking about it. I'm here in New York. You're up in Toronto, but we may not be talking about it in our cities, but trust me, that's the hottest ticket. You go to Atlanta and people specifically, they pull out their phone and they just keep trying to hit it until, I finally got an autonomous car. Everybody, let's go. It's almost like a party thing. Eventually, that novelty will wear off and it'll just become, let's go. Okay, here's the autonomous car. Yeah, Google is going to be big in autonomy, and it's funny. It's like the company we know but don't. Remember when Amazon suddenly had this division called Amazon Web Services, and as it turns out now they effectively run almost 3/4 of all the sort of back office plumbing for e-commerce in this country. Well, Google the same way. I think they're going to be huge via Waymo for autonomous vehicles, and we haven't quite realized that yet, but we will.
Stock number 3, Uber.
Uber remains one of the most well-liked stocks on Wall Street. It is recommended by more than 3/4 of the analysts who cover the company, even after the run of more than 50% in these shares this year. Here's Adam on Uber.
Yeah, well, what makes Uber an interesting play for autonomy is the partnership with Waymo that is Google owned, right? Because you can, in a couple of cities, as we're discussing, get Ubers in autonomous vehicles. They're going to start rolling that out. And what makes Uber interesting about this, John, is they have the scale. They're able to do it because it's a trusted brand. They're in cities not just across North America, but cities across the entire world. So I think it's very exciting. And by the way, another related company, Joby Aviation, is going to start offering piloted drone taxi service to various airports. They launch in Dubai in a couple of months. They'll be launching in this country a few months after that. And guess what? They have partnered with Uber. So, just as you can take an autonomous vehicle through Uber, you can also ultimately book air drone taxis. And while they're piloted for now, my guess is those too will become autonomous. I mean, autonomy is a massive, massive movement, John, that touches almost every aspect of mobility. And when I say we're scratching the surface, I mean, we're not even scratching the surface. I mean, it's funny when you think about how small it is right now and how few years ago, even guys like me said, autonomous driving, that's crazy. That's not safe. It'll never leave the warehouse. Well, it's left the warehouse.
And stock number 4, Aurora Innovation.
Yeah, well, Aurora has now been public for nearly 4 years. And as a self-driving play tied to trucking, there's a lot to like here, according to Adam. Let's get his perspective.
Let me get your attention by telling you, John, this is a $5 stock. It's cheap. It literally is a call option on the future of autonomous trucking specifically. And what's fascinating about this company is they don't build trucks. Their partners do that. Partners like PACCAR, Volvo, et cetera. These guys build the guidance systems that drive the trucks. All right. So it's really a software meets hardware company. And people don't realize, unless they live in certain parts of Texas, that there are already trucking companies, big trucking companies like Werner Enterprises, one of the largest truckers here in the US, that are running, in some cases, 50, 60 autonomous truckloads per week across the state of Texas. And they're expanding into neighboring states. They're going up to Utah, over to Arizona. And John, it's truly amazing to see these rigs. I mean, they're big 18-wheelers and there's no one behind the wheel. Now, for the time being, they do have a monitor sitting in the cab in case something goes wrong, but they don't need the monitor. And people for a long time were thinking, well, yeah, but I guess you can go from point A to point B on the highways, but then what about all the small roads? Well, they've figured that out too. And just as autonomous taxis can get around roads and cities, guess what? Autonomous trucks can do the same thing. It's very exciting. I think we're also going to see a lot of logistics stations, trucking stations, transfer stations built along highways, so that I think you'll start to see over time a lot of the autonomous trucking on the highways, and it'll just go right off, park, and then that last mile, the stuff gets sent in smaller trucks, probably driven by people. But just for some perspective, John, the long-haul trucking industry in the United States is a $1 trillion per year market. Aurora wants to be 5% of that. That's 50 billion. And their goal is to do that by 2029. That's 4 years from now. So this thing is happening. And again, just another example of how autonomy is going to be big.
All right, that's our list of 4 self-driving stocks to watch. Our thanks to Adam Johnson of the Bullseye American Ingenuity Fund. You can learn more about Adam in our description.
Where we've also got a list of all the ways you can connect with us, from our free investing newsletter to the podcast edition of Ticker Take.
And don't forget, to subscribe on YouTube so you don't miss our next investing video.
Yeah, help us reach our goal of 25,000 subscribers this year.
All right.
See you next time.